In Colombia, the labor reform is revived. However, its approval is not yet guaranteed. Meanwhile, President Petro keeps calling for gatherings and popular mobilizations. On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court of Justice took issue with Donald Trump's attempts to sidestep the Constitution to limit birthright citizenship. India and Pakistan agreed to extend the ceasefire until May 18th. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Colombia, the labor reform is revived. However, its approval is not yet guaranteed. Meanwhile, President Petro keeps calling for gatherings and popular mobilizations. After an extensive session held on May 14th, the majority of the corporations accepted the appeal request so that the labor reform promoted by President Gustavo Petro would continue to be processed in the Senate. In view of this, began on Thursday the third debate of the labor reform to guarantee the labor rights of Colombians, in addition to recovering lost rights and updating the legislation. Moreover, a public hearing will be held on Friday in person and online for workers, unions, and small, medium, and large employers so that they can participate in it. It should be noted that the text to be discussed is the same that had previously filed in the 7th Commission in March. To commemorate the International Day of Families, the Venezuelan people took part in the march called by the United Socialist Party of Venezuela and led by President Nicolás Maduro to celebrate the rescue of the girl Michaelis Espinosa. Since early in the morning, the Venezuelan people gathered at the Morelos Square on the way to the Miraflores Palace, where popular sectors celebrated the return of Michaelis Espinosa to the country, together with her mother and grandmother, strengthened family unity, reaffirming the commitment to the protection and welfare of the Venezuelan family. On the other hand, the citizens prayed for the release of the migrants kidnapped in a prison for terrorists in El Salvador after being illegally deported by the government of the United States. The strike against the government-imposed social security law in Panama has lasted 24 consecutive days, paralyzing key sectors such as education, construction, and food production. Workers and teachers' unions have expressed their rejection through road blockades, marches, rallies, and work stoppages. Demonstrators point out that this government measure plunders the Social Security Fund, hands over funds to private banks, raises the retirement age, and privatizes services. Sontrax accuses the Molina government of violating freedom of association and seeking to arrest union leaders. The president, José Raúl Molina, warned that he will not allow Panama to be held hostage allegedly by groups of workers who demand the government to repeal the Social Security law, stop repression, and cease detentions. The president accuses the protests, which have been going on for more than 20 days, of promoting a breakdown and increasing the alleged risk that more than 7,000 people will be unemployed due to the effects of the strike. In this regard, he threatens to stop the demonstrations at all costs. The Metallurgical Workers Union in Argentina is carrying out a total indefinite strike in rejection of Javier Milei's government's declaration to eliminate tariffs on cell phone imports. The metal workers of Tierra del Fuego state that the measure is a direct response to the official announcement that negatively impact the local productive structure. They also warned that more than 6,000 people could lose their jobs. The union has called for a mobilization in the center of Rio Grande, where many industrial companies are located. In view of this, the governor of Tierra del Fuego, Gustavo Melella, announced that he will initiate legal actions against Javier Milei's decision on the elimination of tariffs. Melella warned about the measure's impact on local production, which will cause loss of employment and productive growth. Meanwhile, he detailed that he is in dialogue with the trade union organizations of the province, with businessmen and legislators to work on a legal action. Funeral ceremonies for former President José Pepe Mujica are continuing in the Legislative Palace in Montevideo, capital of Uruguay. Thousands of people paid tribute to Mujica, accompanying the procession that stopped in front of the headquarters of the National Liberation Movement, the Broad Front, and the Popular Participation Movement. The procession concluded at the Legislative Palace. Authorities reported that more than 40 diplomatic delegations, including President Yamandu Orsi, paid their respects to the former president. On Thursday at 9 a.m. local time, access to the palace reopened in anticipation of the arrival of other dignitaries.
A very great sadness, but at the same time I am a veteran, a very old veteran. I feel that we are a part of history, and the best thing is to have spent 71 years, all that era. And today, to be like this, is immense. It is a great pride in spite of the sadness.
Suffering, but we also celebrate life, and all that he gave us, right? A different by, so different, that he is the best of all of us. Internationally recognized, very important for the Latin American left, not to mention the first conquest of the Broad Front government.
I think that we are losing an era, we are losing it little by little, and I lived it when I was a student. Of ideas and ideals above everything else.
Very sad, but I also think he's within us and he didn't go away.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court of Justice took issue with Donald Trump's attempt to sidestep the Constitution to limit birthright citizenship. According to experts, this case, while technically about immigration, could reshape presidential power and the role of federal courts. The U.S. Supreme Court heard argument Thursday in Donald Trump's attempt to broadly enforce his executive order to limit birthright citizenship, a move that would affect thousands of babies born each year, as the Republican president seeks a major shift in how the U.S. Constitution has long been understood. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, reiterated her commitment to cooperation and coordination with the U.S. government within the framework of respect for sovereignty and bilateral interests.
There is coordination, collaboration, cooperation within the framework of respect for our sovereignty. There is no subordination, nor participation of elements of any U.S. agency in any operation, and that is what I was referring to yesterday, that things have changed.
The Mexican president also pointed out that the proposal to tax remittances at 5% affects not only Mexicans but also many Latin American countries.
We do not agree. It is even unconstitutional in the United States, because it would charge a double tax, because Mexicans living in the United States already pay taxes. Then the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, the Mexican ambassador to the United States, is talking to the legislators. They are giving all the arguments. It does not only affect Mexico. The first country that receives remittances is India, from the United States. It also affects many other countries and many other countries in Latin America.
With 6 months to go until COP30, the 19th International Conference on Community-Based Adaptation to Climate Change is underway in Recife, Brazil. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
In a context of increasing climate change disasters around the world, the 19th Community-Based Adaptation to Climate Change Conference is underway in Recife. Brazil's National Union for People's Housing, or UNMP, is participating in the event to raise awareness of the potential of converting vacant buildings in downtown areas to social housing as a strategy for disaster risk mitigation.
I used to live in a settlement of plastic tarp and clapboard shacks. Whenever there were strong winds, the shacks would blow down. And when it rained a lot, it flooded. This gave us the feeling that we were going to die. So when everything got back to normal, all we could do is thank God and keep fighting.
An estimated 6.2 million Brazilian families lack access to dignified housing, but the census shows this deficit could be completely eliminated by converting thousands of abandoned government buildings in towns and cities across the country into social housing. Although the 1988 Constitution requires the government to do this, it usually only happens in cases of well-coordinated occupations putting pressure on local authorities.
Moving families who live on the periphery to downtown areas reduces risks caused by climate change. Because, first of all, the vacant buildings have already been built. All they need is a reform. And most importantly, you are relocating families from risk zones on hillsides, riverbanks and floodplains.
As places like Recife, the world's 18th most vulnerable city to climate change, deal with more frequent and more intense flooding disasters, social movements and housing activists are raising their voices in international spaces like CBA 19 to highlight how enabling the poor to move to downtown areas improves the quality of life.
The Polis Institute conducted a study last year that clearly demonstrates that converting empty buildings in central areas to social housing can promote climate change adaptation and mitigate damage, because it moves people closer to their employment, leisure and education.
CBA 19 will continue until May 16th. Brian Meir, teleSUR, Recife.
China announced on Thursday the decision to grant a visa-free policy for nationals of 5 Latin American countries, a measure reportedly aimed at further facilitating international travel.
To further facilitate cross-border travel, China decided to include more countries in its visa waiver program and extend the visa-free policy to ordinary passport holders from Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru and Uruguay on a trial basis from the 1st of June 2025 to 6. Ordinary passport holders from the above-mentioned 5 countries can be exempted from visa to enter China and stay for no more than 30 days for business, tourism, family and friends visit, exchange and transit purposes. China remains committed to high-level opening up and will take more steps to make travel easier between China and other countries.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. India and Pakistan agreed to extend the ceasefire until May 18th. The decision was announced after a diplomatic meeting between representatives of both countries, where they reiterated the commitment to maintain calm along the line of control, an area that frequently registers clashes. On the other hand, India claimed to have proof of the involvement of the Pakistani intelligence in the attack perpetrated by the terrorist group. New Delhi and Islamabad thus imposed mutual restrictions on each other, suspended bilateral agreements, and closed each other's airspace. Delegates from both nations are expected to meet in the coming days to assess compliance with the ceasefire and possible diplomatic progress. The Russian delegation present in Turkey for the scheduled negotiations with Ukraine held a press conference in response to the latest remarks by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This way, the head of the delegation, Vladimir Medinsky, reaffirmed the authority of the officials appointed for the talks, stressing they were approved by a presidential decree and possessed all the necessary competences and authority to conduct the negotiations. Furthermore, Medinsky recalled these talks are a continuation of the 2022 peace process interrupted by the Ukrainian side, while highlighting his delegation's willingness to find a sustainable and long-lasting solution to the conflict. For his part, after battling the Russian delegation upon his arrival in Ankara, the Ukrainian president stated he will not participate directly in the talks, but will send representatives to Istanbul.
We consider these negotiations as a continuation of the peace process in Istanbul, which unfortunately was interrupted by the Ukrainian side 3 years ago. Our official delegation has been approved by a presidential decree and possesses all the necessary competencies and authority to conduct negotiations. The delegation is set on a constructive course, aiming to find possible solutions and points of convergence. The goal of direct negotiations with the Ukrainian side is, sooner or later, to reach the establishment of a long-term peace by eliminating the fundamental root causes of the conflict.
May 15th marks Nakba Day for Palestinians, a day to commemorate the mass dispossession and forced displacement during the creation of State of Israel in 1948. Palestinians held marches in the occupied West Bank in Ramallah to commemorate the 77th anniversary of the Nakba, or catastrophe, in which an estimated 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their lands after Israel declared itself an independent state in the territory. Palestinian flags and keys symbolizes the lost homes and the permanent desire and struggle for their return. This year, the commemoration takes place amid the ongoing genocide in Gaza that killed over 50,000 as Israel continues to force displacement in all the enclave with its aid blockade and ongoing attacks.
Every day, we must speak to our children about our country, about what our ancestors lived through and what exactly happened to them. This is our duty. If we stop talking about the issue, it will fade away. We are firmly committed to our cause, the refugee cause, and we certainly still hope for our return.
I came here to make a solidarity.
I came here to make a solidarity. 77 years of suffering. We still have suffering. Our priority now is to stop the genocide, to stop the aggressive settlers, to stop the aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip.
We are here, we are steadfast. We remain here and we will stay in this land because we believe that Victory Day
will come one day.
The Venezuelan government expressed its solidarity to the Palestinian people on the 77th anniversary of the Nakba. Through an official statement, the government stated that Venezuela, in firm adherence to the principles of international law, justice and self-determination of peoples, joins today in deep solidarity with the brotherly people of Palestine as we commemorate the 77th anniversary of the Nakba, a catastrophe that marked the beginning of the systematic dispossession, forced exile and continued suffering of millions of Palestinians uprooted from their ancestral land. The communique follows by recalling how 77 years ago, the colonial ambition of Israeli Zionism gave way to a massive, planned and violent expulsion of the Palestinian population. That historic crime has not ceased. Its tragic consequences persist to this day, today aggravated by an ongoing genocide brutally executed by the Nazi regime of Israel and its chief perpetrator, the war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. It goes on to warn that the Nakba is not a memory of the past. It is an open wound that bleeds with every act of aggression, with every murdered child, with every destroyed home, with every Palestinian life cut short by the machinery of war, apartheid and occupation of the State of Israel. In its closing remarks, the statement assured that the people and the government of Venezuela, headed by President Nicolás Maduro Moros, embrace with unwavering brotherhood and commitment the brave and dignified Palestinian people. Their cause is our cause. Their heroic resistance is a source of inspiration for the free peoples of the world, and their legitimate journey for justice, peace and sovereignty is a cry that we make our own, with a conviction that sooner rather than later, freedom and dignity will flourish forever in the sacred land of Palestine. Long live free and sovereign Palestine. In this context, Palestinian civil defense recorded 94 deaths as a result of overnight Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip. The entity further detailed that occupation forces dropped bombs on Khan Yunis city in southern Gaza, which claimed over 60 lives, including journalist Hassan Samour and his 11 family members. Moreover, reporter Ahmad al-Helo was hit to death in a different attack, so the Gazan media office has registered 217 journalists killed since October 2023. In addition, the Israeli army targeted the Tuba complex, comprising a prayer room and a medical clinic in northern Havalia, which led to 15 fatal victims, including 11 children and women. Meanwhile, the Israeli forces denied accountability, accusing Palestine of inflating death tolls. Regardless, most media outlets assure the fact-checking massacres. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.